In this YouTube video, I'm going to be sharing with you all the information you need to know to be able to choose a good DAW for recording your vocals right after this intro. Hello there, I'm Autoclay Beats. On this YouTube channel, I share helpful tips and tricks for artists and producers, especially if you do Afrobeat. So if that interests you, please consider subscribing. Before going any further in this video, we have to first of all understand what a DAW is. So what's a DAW? It's actually an acronym for digital audio workstation. That's just a fancy way of saying your recording software. On the market today in 2021, there are several options, as many as between 15 and 20, but I'm just going to limit our discussion to the very popular ones, and I would quickly be eliminating the ones you shouldn't even be considering if all you do is vocal recording. Before going further on this discussion, it's important for you to know that it's not just your DAW you need to be able to record professional vocals, especially in a home studio setting. You also obviously need a microphone, you need a computer, whether that's PC, Mac, laptop or desktop. You need a cable to connect the microphone to the audio interface, and obviously you need an audio interface. So once you have those requirements, the next thing you have to consider before choosing a DAW for recording vocals are the following things. Ease of use. You want something that isn't too technical, although in general, in the beginning, when you're just starting out learning about recording, music production stuff and all of that, it's generally going to feel technical for anybody who it's your first time doing it. So it's something to have in mind. But even beyond those initial learning phases, your first 1 to 2 months of getting used to it, you want something that is going to be easy for you to remember how to use, that has an interesting and easy to navigate interface. Okay, so that's ease of use. Secondly, you want something that handles audio recording and editing properly. Now, so just so you know, pretty much any DAW worth mentioning on the market can record audio. But when it comes to editing the audio, that's where a lot of these programs start to fall behind. Okay, so those are certain things you want. So those are a few things you want to keep in mind when you're choosing one. The following DAWs are DAWs you do not want to consider if you do vocal recording, especially if you want your life to be easy. Number 1, FL Studio. FL Studio is pretty good for beat making. It's fantastic, whether it's Afrobeat, hip hop, and especially if you do anything that isn't really live music. It's pretty good for those things. But when it comes to vocal recording or recording audio, it does it, but the efficiency and the tool sets available within the software doesn't really make it that good for that purpose. So definitely something you want to stay away from. Number 2, DAW you want to stay away from, Reason. Same thing like FL Studio. Reason is pretty good with beat making and all that kind of stuff. And as of version 9-ish, was it 9? Between 9 and 10, they introduced a lot of good audio features, because in the past, especially like from version 8 and below, it didn't even use to record audio per se. So they added those features, but even with those added features, it's pretty complex and not as easy to understand. And to make things even more difficult, you're not going to find a lot of helpful tutorials on recording vocals in Reason either. In fact, in this department, you might even find more tutorials for FL Studio, which I also don't recommend for recording vocals. So Reason is definitely a no-no. The third recording software, which is actually the best out of this three that you might consider, but I would still not recommend, would be Ableton Live. Ableton Live is kind of cool. It handles audio well and it does a lot of things. In fact, it handles audio pretty well. but where it really fails is in its ease of use. It's not as straightforward, like all the other options I'll be mentioning. So you could kind of use it, especially if maybe you already use the software. If you're like a DJ trying to go into vocal recording and you're kind of familiar with the software already, you could try it out. But that's something you want to consider if you're thinking of using Ableton Live and if you are new to recording music in general. Now for the DAWs I actually recommend that you use or consider using for recording vocals would be Pro Tools, Cubase, StudioOne, and then Logic Pro. I'll start with Logic Pro. Logic Pro runs just on Mac, and there's also a free version that is called GarageBand that is pretty full feature that you can use to do your vocal recording. So if you're on a Mac, those are two options you want to consider. The second DAW you would want to consider on this list would be Pro Tools. Now, Pro Tools is pretty good at recording audio. It has a lot of good features, but at the moment, you can't buy Pro Tools outright, okay? They've moved to this full subscription service thing, so you have to pay on a monthly basis to use Pro Tools. So Pro Tools is definitely a good DAW to consider if you record just vocals, but just have it at the back of your mind that you are going to be on a subscription service if you want to use their software legally. The third option on my list would be Cubase. Cubase is fantastic in a lot of ways if all you want to do is record vocals. Now they've improved it massively, especially since version 9. All you need to consider for Cubase would be the LE version, which is like their lowest tier version. If all you do is vocal recording, it's more than enough. The unfortunate thing with Cubase, if you want to go higher with like Cubase Artist or the full version, their Pro version, you're going to need to get something that is called a dongle, which just looks like a flash drive, and your DAW won't work without it. So quite honestly, Cubase Elements, which works pretty fine without a dongle, is more than enough, has more than enough power that you ever need to, if all you do is record vocals. Cubase is definitely a very cool option you want to consider as a singer and a songwriter. The last DAW I'll be recommending would be StudioOne, especially the version 5. Now, at the moment, I'm on StudioOne Professional, but if you're a singer-songwriter, the free version is actually pretty good, which is StudioOne Prime. It's cool if you're, say, maybe a rapper or you're someone who is comfortable with their vocals, as it sounds, and you don't need to rely on external software like Auto-Tune, and you have somebody you are sending your vocals to mix. So if you don't really mind having to hear your vocals without having some type of Auto-Tune correction on it, the Prime version is fantastic and it's free. So, and it's fully featured. It has all the tools you need to edit your vocals and all of that good stuff. But if you want the flexibility to be able to use external plugins like Auto-Tune and other stuff to be able to mix your vocals, if that's something you also want to be able to do as a singer-songwriter, then the next package above the free one, which is StudioOne Artist, is fantastic. I hope this video has been very helpful to you. Please consider subscribing and leave a comment below letting me know if there are other options you felt that were just as good as the ones I mentioned that I didn't mention in this video, or if you have a question you'd like me to answer in a video like this. Until next time, have a wonderful day.